Hi, my name is Daniel Pesca. I'm a composer and a pianist, and I'm very pleased to be with you today to share some of my recent work with you. I want to introduce myself by following a particular path or through line through these recent works, by invoking a theme that explains a lot of what I find so powerful and moving in music and what I try to do in my own work. One of the most beautiful aspects of music for me, one of its most poignant qualities, is the way it relates to memory. Our personal memories, our shared collective memories. Because music is a temporal art, because we're moving through music in time, that means that memory is engaged constantly in our listening experience. And that might be the relatively near-term memory of kind of where we are in the journey of a piece of music. But it also could be broader memories, like I said, the personal memories, the cultural memories that are brought up as we're listening. And so music creates this kind of beautiful network or web effect, tying together our experiences in the moment with our accumulated memories. Now, memory is a very rich web of associations. So, for instance, we might connect a particular physical feeling with a particular emotion, or we might connect a particular emotion with a particular place. If you go on a trip, let's say, you might remember how you felt on the airplane, or the book you were reading on the airplane, what you ate. And then when you arrived there, what you ate, the music you heard, the environments you saw, the architecture you experienced, the smells in the air. All of this becomes part of memory. It's not one sense, it's a whole web of senses. And this is something I admire so much in the greatest novelists, the greatest filmmakers, is they bring us into an entire world that's complete. And music has an immense power to evoke this as well. Just through one single sense, the sense of hearing, these whole worlds, these whole vistas can open up before us and can really draw the listener into these unknown environments, these unimagined environments that now they're suddenly experiencing. So in short, what I'm saying is that maybe part of the job of an artist is to take this web that exists within us, and for the artist, you have to find that web within yourself and sculpt it into an experience then that we're able to share with others, that we're able to express and draw others into. And I would argue furthermore that maybe this is more important than ever now. Part of the world we live in today is this media environment where we're all trapped in these devices, we're all trapped in these very kind of steady state platforms that impose a certain flatness and sameness over whatever type of content they bear. And maybe something that music can do and art can do today is resensitize people to this depth and complexity of lived experience, the kind of depth of field that's possible in music through counterpoint, orchestration, color, and so forth. Maybe this can make the world vivid again. So what sparks this web-like apparatus of memory for me? For me, it's often a sense of place, places I've been, places that often carry a certain personal resonance in my life, in my memory, places where I have experiences that have this kind of multi-dimensional valence to them. So I'm exploring this theme with you today through excerpts of three pieces that all kind of come at this from slightly different places, but all address this central through line. First up is my suite for piano, Hyde Park Boulevard. The story of this piece starts in 2020 when I was sheltering in place in the Hyde Park neighborhood of Chicago. For me as an artist, as I think for others, the experience of COVID was like a shrinking of my world. And actually it brought me closer to my own sensations and closer in tune with the environment around me, to the natural spaces in Chicago where I walked every day during various times of the day in changing light and weather. And that informed this piece. Also during that period, of course, my schedule as a pianist was suddenly completely clear. And I found myself practicing the 6 keyboard partitas of Bach all the time, which is music I hadn't been playing before the pandemic, but suddenly it had this kind of central place in my musical life. That music became, I guess, a kind of grounding practice for me, a way of sort of centering myself in a time when there was so much uncertainty and turbulence in the world. And it actually helped me grow a lot as a pianist during that time. I had an unprecedented chance to just be at home and attend to details of my craft, and it was really special. So the piece itself originated when I played the first partita, the B-flat major, from home for a friend's online concert series. And when I did so, I improvised these little interludes between the movements of the partita. Those interludes became the basis of the music of my suite, Hyde Park Boulevard, although I fleshed them out fully on paper and pencil. As a result of this origin, little artifacts of the Bach pieces are present throughout the suite. This piece is dedicated to my wonderful husband, Andre, who I met in Hyde Park, who I was sheltering in place with, and who heard the improvs and urged me to develop them into the suite as it now exists. So it really kind of exists thanks to him. Later that year, 2020, Andre and I got married, actually, in one of the environments referenced in the suite, the beautiful wooded aisle of Jackson Park. So in short, this piece knits together a rich network of associations, a particular neighborhood, the music of Bach, life during the pandemic and everything that entailed, and a deeply treasured personal relationship, that with my husband, into a single unbroken musical fabric. So now I'll play for you a live recording of a performance by me of the first two movements of the suite. As we listen, I'll be showing some pictures that I took of the neighborhood around the time I wrote the piece. Next, we'll hear part of my quartet from 2022, Walk With Me My Joy, commissioned by Constellations Chamber Concerts in Washington, D.C., and premiered by flutist Sarah Frizov, cellist Christine Lampreia, percussionist Ian Rosenbaum, and me. This piece was inspired by an early childhood memory, that of a song that my mother sang to me as a lullaby when I was a little baby. This is a folk song that goes variously by the names Shul Arun, Shul Agra, Buttermilk Hill, Johnny Has Gone for a Soldier, etc., etc. Like many folk songs, it has gone through many, many names as it's traversed its way through history. For me, it's a tune I've known as long as I can remember, and its many emotional resonances in my life echo throughout this quartet. At 24 minutes long, the work is fairly large scale, and the entire middle panel of the form is something akin to a large set of variations on that folk song. Each variation is for a different subset of the quartet, which allows space for each of the instruments to be featured as the lead voice. The flute is an important instrument in a lot of my work, and the supple lyrical playing of Sarah Frizov, who's a longtime collaborator and friend, inspires a lot of the writing you'll hear in this excerpt. To the cello, I entrust some of the music's most dramatic and anguished moments, including an elegy-like variation, which forms the center of the work's emotional gravity, and which you'll hear at the end of this excerpt. The percussion piano duo creates this kind of warm, rich bed of resonance in many sections of the piece, but you'll also hear Ian's nimble and gorgeously phrased marimba playing come to the fore early in this excerpt. So I'll be playing 6 variations for you today. In the first of these, you'll hear the folk song in the cello, doubled lightly in the piano, with the flute spinning out an obligato line over the top. The score will follow as we listen. You can hear that entire piece on my recent album, Walk With Me My Joy, released in June on New Focus Recordings. Here's the cover art, which shows me as a little boy with my younger sister, Rose. The audio we were just hearing was, in fact, the recording from that album. Finally, I'd like to turn to one of my most recent works, a piano concerto entitled Up North. This work was co-commissioned by a consortium of 5 orchestras, which are shown up on your screen now. The lead orchestra was the Idaho State Civic Symphony, directed by Nell Flanders. I performed the premiere with this group in April. Today, we'll hear part of the middle movement of this piece's 3 movements. This movement is called The House on Dresser Street, and it is inspired by recollections of an old family home in Sheboygan, Michigan. My family traveled up to this house each summer, and its history and its very idiosyncratic and endearing character are the stuff of family lore. The form of this movement came to mind a number of years ago when I was suffering through a period of insomnia. I discovered I could soothe myself back to sleep if I imagined walking through the old house on Dresser Street, imagining in as much detail as possible everything I could, from the designs on the wallpaper to the shapes of the vases, the texture of the carpet, the way light slanted through certain windows, the placement of the furniture in the spaces. Everything I could. So this middle movement is kind of like that. It's a memorialized walk through the old house, with the solo piano perhaps representing me, and then the orchestra morphing from room to room to capture the particular feelings and shades and colors and quality of light in each room. So we have time today to hear just 3 of the movement's rooms, if you will. The first of these is called From Down the Block. So you'll hear a walking pizzicato bass line that evokes a summer stroll, and then a somewhat nostalgic theme in the piano wafts in, and it's something like the old Victorian house drifting into view as you're strolling towards it. The second section we'll hear is called The Parlor, which takes the form of an old-fashioned waltz with ornamental filigree entrusted to the piano. Finally, we'll hear Hide and Seek, which remembers childhood games on the house's big lawns and gardens. What we're about to watch is a live video from the premiere in April. Again, that was with Nell Flanders, conductor, and the Idaho State Civic Symphony. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and to the entire team at Composers Now. I've had a terrific time doing this. It's a privilege to have an opportunity to share my work and speak about it on this online platform. To learn more about me or to get in touch, please visit my website and follow me on social media. Goodbye.